It's August 18th, 1590. A dense, humid fog still clings to the shores of Roanoke Island. For 3 long years, Governor John White has been trapped in Europe, kept away by the chaotic violence of the Spanish Armada. Today, finally, he is stepping back onto American soil. His heart is pounding with a mix of dread and dynamic hope. On this island, he left a thriving settlement. 115 brave souls, families, friends, children, and most importantly, he left his own flesh and blood. His daughter Eleanor and his granddaughter Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in the New World. White expects to hear the sounds of survival, the axes clearing wood, the laughter of children, the clinking of pots. He expects his people to run to the beach, cheering for the supply ship that will save them. But as the keel of his small rowboat hits the sand, the only sound is the wind. It is a devastating, heavy silence. The colony is gone. He runs to the heart of the settlement. The 115 colonists haven't just disappeared. They have been erased. Their houses have been carefully deconstructed. Not a single scrap of metal, no food supplies, not even a single body. The fields they worked are now reclaimed by wild weeds. John White, overwhelmed by panic and grief, walks to the entrance of where the fort used to stand, and there, carved with chilling, methodical precision into a massive wooden post, is a single word. A word that will haunt American history for 5 centuries. 7 letters that mean absolutely nothing and everything. Croatoan. The Lost Colony of Roanoke isn't just a story about a massacre or a war. It is a terrifying puzzle about the absolute edge of the human will. How did an entire settlement carefully dismantle their village, erase their presence, and vanish into the wilderness without a trace? The horrifying truth starts right now. To understand the terrifying silence of 1590, we must travel back 3 years to the hopeful summer of 1587. The previous English attempts to settle Roanoke had been a total disaster. They were military expeditions led by arrogant soldiers who met the local indigenous tribes with violence, murder, and distrust. They left behind a legacy of blood and a profound, deadly hostility. But 1587 was supposed to be different. This wasn't a military outpost. This was a true colony of Raleigh. Under the leadership of Governor John White, a painter and cartographer known for his respect for the land, 115 civilians, men, women, and entire families sailed across the Atlantic. They weren't looking for gold. They were looking for a new life, a future in a city called City of Raleigh in the Chesapeake Bay. But the journey started with a critical, almost fatal error of judgment. Their pilot, a Portuguese man named Simon Fernandez, was a questionable character. When they arrived at Roanoke to pick up the 15 men left behind by the previous expedition, Fernandez abruptly refused to let the colonists back on the ships. He declared that the summer was wasting, and they must settle on Roanoke, the exact place where English soldiers had just murdered a local chief, Wingina, months prior. Fernandez forced them off the ships into a hostage situation before they even built their first home. They were essentially inheriting a war they did not start. The colonists were trapped in hostile territory, on an island where they knew they were not welcome. But amidst the growing dread, there was one singular moment of defying hope. On August 18th, 1587, Governor White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Virginia Dare. She was a fragile, miraculous symbol of an English future in the New World. The hope, however, would be short-lived. By late 1587, the colony was desperate. They had no supplies. The land was difficult, the nearby tribes were hostile, and winter was approaching. They realized they could not survive alone. They voted. They begged Governor White to return to England immediately. White did not want to leave his daughter and newborn granddaughter in such a dangerous place, but he knew it was their only chance. Before he left, White made a serious pact with the leaders of the colony. If they were forced to leave Roanoke Island before he returned, they must carve the name of their new destination into a prominent post or tree. But there was one final chilling condition. If they left in distress, if they were attacked or forced out by violence, they must carve a cross symbol above the name. White sailed away, promising to return in mere months. He had no idea he was sealing their fate and that his daughter and granddaughter were already ghosts. John White arrived in England in November of 1587. He expected to gather supplies and be back on Roanoke Island by spring. He had no idea he was already a ghost to his family. He went directly to Sir Walter Raleigh and laid out the desperate situation. They needed everything: food, tools, weapons, and they needed them now. But White's timing was catastrophic. He had arrived precisely when England was facing its greatest existential threat: the Spanish Armada. Spain, the dominant superpower of the world, was preparing to launch the largest naval force history had ever seen to invade England. In response, Queen Elizabeth issued a royal decree that sealed the fate of the 115 colonists across the ocean. All English ships were requisitioned for the defense of the kingdom. Not a single vessel, including the supply ships John White had desperately prepared, was allowed to leave English waters. White was trapped. He was a governor without a colony, forced to watch the horizon while his daughter, his granddaughter, and his people starved 3,000 miles away. For 3 agonizing years, White fought the bureaucracy of a nation at war. He pleaded, he begged, he tried to organize smaller expeditions, but they were all commandeered or blocked. While the cannons roared in Europe, on Roanoke Island, there was only silence. Imagine the trapped colonists. They watched the Atlantic every single day for months, waiting for the sails of John White's relief effort. They watched their limited supplies dwindle to nothing. They watched the nearby Croatoan and Socotan tribes, knowing that relations were already fractured by previous English violence. By late 1588, the reinforcements they voted for had not arrived. By 1589, hope was gone. By 1590, the year John White finally returned, they had to make a choice. They had been pushed past the terrifying edge of the known world. They were starving, they were outnumbered, and they knew that reinforcement was not coming. So, faithfully following the pact they made with Governor White, they carefully and methodically deconstructed their world. It is August of 1590. After 3 long years trapped in England, Governor John White is finally standing back on the sand of Roanoke Island. He expects a desperate, starving colony to run to his boat. He expects to see his daughter, Eleanor, and his granddaughter, Virginia Dare. But the silence is devastating. Not a single soul comes to meet him. No smoke rises from the trees. No tools left in the fields. White walks to where the settlement should be. He walks into the fort and stops. He is frozen in absolute dread. The fort isn't destroyed. It is erased. The dozens of small cottages he left behind are gone. But it is the way they are gone that will puzzle the known world for 5 centuries. This was not a violent, spontaneous attack. The houses have been carefully, methodically deconstructed. The wooden posts were not chopped down with axes or burned to the ground. They were lifted from the soil and carried away. Every scrap of metal, every tool, every belonging of the 115 colonists is gone. This suggests something terrifyingly calm. This suggests they made a careful, perhaps collaborative choice to dismantle their world and move somewhere else. They had the time to do it correctly. Suddenly, a cry rings out from one of White's soldiers. White runs to the perimeter of the vanished fort. There, carved into a tree nearby, are 3 letters: CRO. White's blood runs cold, but he pushes on. He runs to the main entrance of the former fort, to a massive wooden post that was part of the original palisade, and there, carved with chilling, distinct precision, is the full word: Croatoan. He remembers the pact he made with the colony leaders 3 years ago, the carved cross. White immediately begins to scan the post, the surrounding trees, the entire perimeter. He is looking for that single, terrifying symbol of distress. He looks for the cross of violence. He looks for a sign of massacre or war. But he finds nothing. The cross is missing. White is left with a devastating, paradoxical truth. The 115 people he loves are gone. Their village has been taken apart, and yet they have left a clear sign telling him they left without the cross of distress. How did an entire colony methodically vanish without a trace? And apparently, without fear? The answer is a terrifying riddle about the limits of human capacity in a dynamic and hostile world. Governor John White never found his family. He intended to travel to Croatoan Island, modern-day Hatteras, to search for them. But a severe hurricane hit the coast, damaging his ships and forcing him to make a terrifying choice. He had to abandon the search and sail back to England. He never returned. The silence of Roanoke became absolute. For 5 centuries, historians, archaeologists, and the public have tried to answer the single, devastating question that haunted John White for the rest of his life. What happened to the 115 colonists? The paradox of the vanished fort and the missing cross of distress has given rise to a dynamic and dark spectrum of theories. The most widely accepted theory, the friendly theory, is assimilation. The word Croatoan points to the nearby island, home to a friendly tribe led by Manteo. It's a logical, dynamic theory. Desperate for food, and seeing that John White was not coming back, they made a collaborative choice to join the Croatoans. They dismantled their village, moved south, and blended into native society. Evidence supports this. Later, European explorers found natives with gray eyes, able to read English, and buildings made in the English style. It is a hopeful story of resilience, a story about the absolute edge of human will adapting to a new world. But there is a darker, terrifying layer to the mystery. This theory does not fit everyone. What about the Croatoan tribe? The Croatoans had a violent history with the previous English soldiers. They were hostile, powerful, and outnumbered the dynamic and weak colonists. Is it possible they launched a surprise attack? Perhaps a betrayal by the friendly Croatoans, driven by fear of English violence or scarcity of resources. This is where the algorithm of history gets complicated. If they were attacked and slaughtered, where is the blood? Where are the bodies? And most importantly, why was there no cross of distress? Remember the detail that puzzles archaeology. The houses were carefully, methodically dismantled, deconstructed. This suggests something terrifyingly calm. This suggests they had the time to take apart their world correctly. A violent massacre is not clean, and it does not carefully move poles from the ground. It is messy. It burns. it leaves chaos. This paradox, this horrifying truth, suggests something much more calculated and strange, something so horrifying that it crossed a line. Did they cross a cultural line that caused a secret massacre? Were they betrayed in silence, their world erased to hide the evidence? The deconstruction points not to a dynamic attack, but perhaps to a ritual, to a total erasure. Today, Roanoke remains the American ghost. 115 people, including a newborn baby, erased from history without a trace. Their final message, Croatoan, carved into a dynamic post, is a 7-letter riddle about the absolute capacity of human will to either disappear or be disappeared. The terrifying truth is that we may never know. John White sailed back to England a broken man. He had failed his queen, his colony, and most devastatingly, his own family. He spent the rest of his agonizing final years writing desperate letters, pleading with the crown for just one more chance, one final expedition to break the silence of Roanoke. But the resources were gone, and the will to risk more lives in the American wilderness was exhausted. White died with only one single confusing clue: 7 letters carved into a weathering post, Croatoan. This 7-letter riddle, this profound and unsettling enigma, became the foundation myth of the American spirit. Roanoke isn't just a historical footnote. It is the original mystery of the New World, a story about the absolute terrifying capacity of human will to either adapt or vanish without a trace. It represents the terrifying, invisible boundary where the known world met the absolute unknowable. Today, the search for answers on Roanoke Island is far from over. Modern archaeology keeps bringing new clues to light, from fragments of English pottery to native artifacts. We are slowly piecing together a truth that is both fascinating and complex. Perhaps the 115 colonists didn't meet a dark fate, but chose a new beginning, merging with the local tribes to form a resilient new community. But the silence remains absolute. For many, the paradox of the missing cross and the carefully deconstructed houses points to a decision so intentional, so methodical, that it defies all logic. It suggests a total, secret closure. The Lost Colony remains a testament to human resilience in the face of the unknown, and the enduring riddle of the 7 letters, Croatoan, is a 7-letter ghost that refuses to rest. Where do you stand on the paradoxical mystery of Roanoke Island? Was it a hopeful act of survival and assimilation, or something far more disturbing and definitive? We respectfully read all perspectives. Share yours in the comments below. If you are fascinated by history's deepest mysteries and stories of human resilience, we invite you to subscribe and become part of the Discovery Vault. Join us every week as we respectfully uncover the files that time has forgotten. Thank you for watching.